fantasy. Now it's not only reality, it is destiny. The last two champions of the NBA are the two most storied franchises.
You live for these moments, and the Lakers have been waiting.
For 2 full years, the Lakers waited for their chance to bury the nightmare of 2008. As the 2010 season came to a close, it seemed like they still might not get it. But there was a sense of destiny in Kobe and the Lakers that year.
It was like Magic and Larry Bird, how they talked about how they used to watch each other's performances, and Larry would cut on the news or pick up a paper and see what Magic and the Lakers did last night, and he would feel like he would have to go out and top that or beat that, etc. Like, that was how driven we were to outdo them and outlast them.
LA closed the season as the best team in the Western Conference, but the Celtics closed as the 4th seed. The Lakers needed the Celtics to pull through for their dream matchup, and Boston delivered. The Celtics clinched their finals berth on May 28th, knocking out the Magic to prevent a second straight Orlando-Los Angeles matchup. And just one day later, the Lakers, led by a 37-point spirited performance by Kobe Bryant, clinched the West on the road in Phoenix. The rematch was set. Kobe was finally getting his chance at redemption. Kobe and the Lakers knew that the stage was set for the biggest moment in their basketball careers. Revenge was the only thing on this team's mind. 9 players on the 2010 squad experienced the 2008 embarrassment, heightening the team's hunger to even the score. Kobe made sure there would be no repeat of the 2008 finals, where the Lakers got blitzed by Boston in Game 1. The Black Mamba came out firing. In Game 1, Bryant took all the fire that accumulated over the last 2 years and left it on the floor. He led the Lakers to a 9-point lead at halftime, settling any jitters the team had at seeing their old foes. The 2008 finals were marred by Boston comebacks, but in 2010, Kobe ensured that wouldn't happen again. During a timeout, on-court cameras picked up on Bryant admonishing Gasol, trying to light a spark for the big man. "You gotta come aggressively, right to the elbow, I mean right now." The fiery speech worked. Gasol scored 12 second-half points, and the Celtics never trimmed LA's lead to single digits. Kobe capped off the game with an emotional 3-pointer and finished with 30 points. But most importantly, Kobe kept Ray Allen in foul trouble and out of sync for the entire game. Game 2 was a different story. Ray Allen flipped the script on Kobe and the Lakers. This time, it was Bryant who struggled with foul trouble, and Allen took full advantage. In the first half, the sharpshooter drained 7 3-pointers. Phil Jackson threw every defender in his arsenal at Allen, but the shots kept falling. Ray Allen finished with a then finals record 8 3-pointers on just 11 attempts, overshadowing Rajon Rondo's impressive triple-double. The Lakers' best defenders were forced to sit out some key stretches. Bryant and Bynum finished the game with 5 fouls, and Artest fouled out. The Lakers were forced to head to Boston with a 1-1 split. As the Lakers debriefed postgame, Jackson warned the team, "This could be the last time we play here. It better not be the last time we play here." Entering Game 3, Kobe made it clear that he heard Phil. He scored 16 points in the first half, silencing the Boston crowd and leading the Lakers to a 10-point halftime lead. He then came out in the third and scored another 9 points to keep the Lakers ahead entering the fourth. But then, Kobe went cold. The Lakers needed something else, something Boston wasn't expecting. With less than a minute left in a 4-point game, Derek Fisher stepped up. The all-time reliable guard grabbed a Ray Allen miss and took off. He didn't slow the pace or drain the clock. He raced to the other end of the floor. Surrounded by 3 Celtics jerseys, Fisher went up strong and finished a tough layup and the foul, scoring his 10th point of the 4th quarter alone. Kobe watched from half court and he celebrated as Fish iced the game. When asked about Fisher's clutch run, Kobe was happy, but he wasn't surprised by his teammate. It's a huge thrill for him, for all of us to see him come through in these moments, but truthfully, he's done it over and over and over again. It's almost his responsibility to our team to do these things. Game 3 would be the last the Lakers won in Boston. Led by Glenn Davis and Nate Robinson, the Celtics took Game 4 on the backs of their bench. After Bryant hit 3 straight threes in the third, Doc Rivers set out his reserves as a shot of energy. It worked, and the Lakers were overrun by fresher legs. Even more troubling than the loss was the fact that Andrew Bynum had knee issues and couldn't even play in the second half. Gasol and Kobe combined for 60% of the Lakers' points, but it wasn't enough. The Celtics' attack was just too balanced. Game 5 had a similar theme. No one on the Lakers besides Kobe scored more than 12 points. Bryant dropped 38, only to fall short. The stage belonged to Paul Pierce, who scored 27 in his best finals performance of 2010. The Lakers went back to Los Angeles down 3-2.
We had pretty high standards for ourselves, but because of how difficult of a team they were to play against, we always loved using them as our barometer for like where we are. Knew that if we couldn't beat them, we weren't where we needed to be.
They were 2 years removed from heartbreak, and they were that much closer to experiencing it again. It would only take one more loss to be there again. But in Game 6, the Lakers would not wilt. The previous 3 finals games were decided by a combined 20 points. They could have gone either way. But in Game 6, LA blew out the Celtics by 22 points, holding them to a minuscule 67 points. Paul Gasol finished 1 assist shy of a triple-double, and the Lakers bench nearly doubled the Celtics bench. Kobe, once again, was the game-high scorer with 26 points. Even more crushing to the Celtics was the loss of Kendrick Perkins, who tore his ACL just minutes into the game. That injury would be something Doc Rivers would hold to this day, saying, "They still have not beaten our starting 5. Our starting 5 against the Lakers starting 5 has a ring. Tell them don't forget that." The stage was set for the Lakers' revenge. All they needed was 48 minutes. 48 minutes would wash away years of pain. Due to the Kendrick Perkins injury, Rasheed Wallace was forced to start. Celtics fans bemoaned the move, but it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Sheed ended up getting 11 points and hit huge shots down the stretch. Meanwhile, in the biggest game of his career, Kobe was ice cold all night. He couldn't catch a break. Game 7 against the Celtics, Kobe Bryant shot 6 from 24 from the field. And to be honest, that game was ugly for everyone. Nobody could buy a bucket. The first half finished 40-34 in Boston's favor, with zero offensive flow on either side. By the time the season entered its final 12 minutes, the Celtics were holding on to a 4-point lead in Staples Center, and all of Los Angeles was holding their breath. Then, the Kobe we all knew stepped up. In the closing minutes, Bryant drained a pair of free throws and a jumper to give the Lakers the lead in the fourth. The Lakers' biggest blow came from their newest member, Ron Artest. Bryant was forced to give the ball up with under a minute left in the biggest game of his life. He gave that ball to Ron Artest, and man did he step up. One jab step and boom! The forward buried a shot that will go down in Lakers history forever. He blew kisses to Staples Center on his way back. That significant shot and that Kobe assist was not lost on Ron Artest.
Yeah, that's great. I'm happy. I hit that. Kobe passed it. They doubled him. All right. I'm not saying I couldn't have got the shot off. When Pierce had to close out twice. I was able to get him off balance. And he worked. Paul Pierce is working on it. It was really impressive how much he worked. But yeah, I had a good shot.
30 seconds later, a Rajon Rondo 3 cut the Lakers' lead to 2. As the Lakers inbounded the ball, Boston doubled Bryant. If anyone was going to deliver the dagger, the Celtics wouldn't let it be the Mamba. Instead, the rock ended up in Sasha Vujicic's hand. The same Sasha Vujicic, who played less than 5 minutes the entire game, was subbed in at the end of Game 7 of the NBA Finals for free throws. In classic automatic machine form, Sasha drained both. The Celtics missed the ensuing shot, the Lakers rebounded the miss, and the game was over. The Lakers did it. They had their 16th championship. Kobe did it. He had his 5th. He finished with an eyesore of a line, 6 for 24. But it didn't matter. When his shot wasn't falling, he grabbed 15 boards. When he was getting harassed by the Celtics, he trusted his teammates. After the win, Bryant acknowledged how much the victory meant for him. This one is by far the sweetest because it's them. I wanted it so bad, and sometimes when you want it so bad, it slips away from you. My guys picked me up. The Mamba had cemented his legacy with another Finals MVP, a 5th championship, and just enough to catch up to Magic, one away from matching Jordan. The final case for his greatness was made. Kobe was bigger than basketball, and we didn't realize it till he left the court. Kobe only got 41 years on this earth, but his impact is immeasurable, and it'll only continue to grow.